What is up, guys? Tomcat here, and today I am, first of all, very happy to be back home after E3, and we're actually chilling out in my studio right now. We're going to do a little bit of a wrap up on some of the Forza Horizon 4 stuff, but we're also going to talk about some things that we haven't quite touched on just yet. And one of those main things that we didn't touch on quite yet is, well, we didn't touch on a few things. One, the first thing I wanted to touch on is a couple of the new cars that you see in this particular shot. Now, this shot has circulated, but this is the full quality version. So we have, obviously, a 993 GT2 like right front and center, but we also have a Regera, we have a Countach, we have a Lotus Esprit. If it looks like I'm looking in a weird direction, I'm looking at the picture. We have an XJ220, we have a CLK GTR back there in the back, which that's whoa, to have that here is like, oh yes. But anyways, and we have I'm trying to see, it almost looks like there could be a TVR Cerberus back there, but I can't be 100% sure on that one. Now, this is not just a, screenshots analysis video. This is also to talk about some of the different customization things that we haven't quite touched on a ton just yet. Now, I know I did some videos where I answered questions about map size. I answered some questions about about drifting, about cars, and I wanted to also address in this video that I'm actually putting some questions together that hopefully I can get some answers from the guys over at Playground about. So that is also coming soon. Now, next screenshot. This screenshot is actually one of the ones that we kind of looked at really early on, which it's basically everybody at the beach. Everybody's just rampaging through the beach. And we can see pretty much everything in this shot is vehicles that we've seen before. But there's a little light bar on the front of that Bug. And I wonder if light bars versus like traditional like front headlights will be something that we can do. Now, next, and by the way, the tires are pretty far down in the sand, so and it's like wet and everything, so it's muddy, but it's not quite like the mud that we see in that other shot with the trucks. Now, this is a gorgeous lineup of classic British sports cars, and I think the main thing we can take from this is the detail. There's so much detail here. It's just wild. It's absolutely wild and crazy, the amount of detail they're showing in this shot. And I mean, it's one of those things where, like, dude, if you have the chance to play the game on a Xbox One X or a high-end PC, freaking do it, Next up, this shot I haven't really detailed too much, and it's a bunch of off-roaders ripping through the trees. And the nice thing about this is the fact that, like, we're going away from, with the game being in Australia before, and now being in the UK, it seems like we're going away from, like, most of the trees being kind of small over to, like, the big, like, these, like, actual substantial sized trees, which is really good in my opinion, and really, really cool, because that gives a lot more believability to the forests and the woods themselves, because, genuinely, unless you're from Australia, those are not going to look like real forests to you, but whereas now they are, and that's a big thing. That's a big deal, especially if you're planning on going out and exploring the world. And also, another thing that's interesting to take from this shot is that they all have their lights on in the daytime. Think about that. They all have their lights on, including their light bars and their spotlights, in the daytime. And I wonder if that maybe indicates a little bit more towards, like, those being switchable whenever you want. I don't know. That could be just a screenshot thing. But usually they don't just put it out there if it's not going to be a thing in the game. So another thing I wanted to talk about before I go on too much further is the fact that Ken Block and some of the other like Forza industry partners got together with Forza, and that could very well mean, and also if you think about it, with the Formula Drift pack coming into the game, we haven't obviously seen what cars are in it yet, but that could very well mean that Vaughn Gitten's Mustang RTR could be in the game. And if that's the case, whoo, that's going to be a riot to drive. That's going to be an absolute riot to drive, and I cannot, like, dude, I can't wait to see what the community is going to do once given access to competition level Formula Drift cars in a Horizon game. I mean, not even in a motorsport game, in a Horizon game. Now, here we obviously see the Hoonigan RWB Porsche next to a Wyra, which looks like a Wyra BC, actually. But this just kind of, this is not really that much of a revealing shot in terms of like showing detail. It's more of a really pretty shot. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I'm also using this as kind of a backdrop to discuss things like the Formula Drift car pack, and the fact that they also met with Hot Wheels, they met with a few different people, and that in itself shows me it's like, okay, so Hot Wheels coming back? Maybe? I'd be super happy about it, and I know a lot of other people would be too, and it's like, every time I talk about it, I'm like, Forza Horizon 4? Plus Hot Wheels? Plus, like, the most massive smile I could possibly freaking come up with? So, like, yeah, that to me is like, okay, I'm in for this, you know, I'm up for it and I'm in for it. Now, next up in terms of screenshots, we're showing that massive hovercraft again next to the Toyota T100 race truck. And this is, of course, going to be a showcase event. We all know it's going to be a showcase event. Some people were asking, like, can we drive the hovercraft? I mean, they asked on my live stream when I live streamed with Brian from Turn 10. And Brian was like, yeah, no. So, and it was one of those things where it's like, you know, we kind of, you know, we know that we're not going to be able to drive a massive hovercraft in Forza. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like the physics aren't really there. You know what I mean? They haven't designed physics for a hovercraft. Who knows? They could do something crazy someday, but it's pretty clear that that's just going to be a showcase event, which I'm sure it's going to be a fun showcase event, but also it is just still going to be a showcase event. Now, an interesting thing about this particular shot is if you look at the driver's helmet and goggles, those look like they've been customized in a way, and that's interesting because in the race vehicles, the off-road race vehicles, it would be interesting to have that customizable gear, right? So if you're in a street car, you're probably just be in like normal street clothes. If you're in a competition race truck, you could be wearing race gear. So he's got like a motocross helmet on and some goggles. So does that confirm customization involving helmets and goggles? I don't know. We'll have to see, but it definitely puts it out there as something we can really look at more in depth and definitely keep an eye out for in the coming months moving forward. So that's going to be something that'll be really on my radar and definitely should be on your guys' radar too. So next up is obviously the mud shot, right? The mud screenshot. And a lot of people actually got onto me in the other mud video about that about the green vehicle not being a Bronco, about it being an International Scout. There was a lot of people in the comments saying that, so I do apologize for that. But no, and I know that I did that in sort of like a whatever voice. But anyways, the interesting thing about this shot, right, the more you look at it, the more you realize, like, okay, so the mud looks... It's weird because on where the Ram is, it looks like the ruts were already there. But where the Toyota is, it looks like the ruts weren't there before. So it'll be interesting to see if like some areas have like ruts already cut out and other areas are like yours to go and mud in for the first time. So we're not going to spend too much time on this one because we already did a full video discussing it and discussing the specifics about it. But from now on, from right here, we're going to move forward to another shot with the RWB Porsche and the Wyra BC in the city. And we see actually two really big trucks kind of coming down the road, it looks like towards them. I'm sure they're not coming down at them all that fast, but we see another big truck coming the other way. And these trucks, it's really interesting because we've got a box truck over there, and then over on the other side, we've got what look like flatbed trucks, but it's hard to tell because they're so blurred. You can only really see like... They either look like tractor trailers with no trailer or flatbeds. So regardless, whichever one they happen to be, I'm happy that they're expanding the scope of the traffic vehicles too, because that adds to the believability of a game like this. And honestly, the whole, we have another new confirmed car, the new NSX. Now, of course, we knew that the Senna was going to be coming into the game ever since we saw the first trailer. We knew the Centenario was going to be here. We knew the Vulcan was going to be here. I cannot tell. There's one other car between the Vulcan and it's like behind the Vulcan and the NSX, and it's just like they give us like a sliver of it, and I can't tell what it is. I genuinely can't tell what it is. But this shot, you can clearly see that everything is in autumn, and I think autumn is going to end up being my favorite season in the game because it's just so beautiful. But we'll have to see. I'm not gonna put myself in a box and say, oh, the best season is this, the best season is this. We haven't even played around with the full game yet. So that'll definitely have to wait, and it'll have to wait for us to be able to get our hands on that full game and get our hands on customization. But regardless of all of that, the game as a whole is gonna be just beautiful. And I think, right here we get some gorgeous rear end of the McLaren Senna. And seeing this car in person, by the way, was incredible. On the E3 show floor, they had the McLaren Senna at the mixer booth, and it was very cool. If you follow my Instagram, you will have seen the pictures I posted, which, by the way, if you don't follow my Instagram or my Twitter, the links are in the description below. Make sure you go and check them out and follow me up over there. So, without any further ado, I really do appreciate you guys tuning in to this video. This was a little bit more of a wrap-up, but it was also to talk about these different aspects that some people kind of missed, especially with the character customization, with the helmets, like the possibility of the helmets and the goggles and stuff like that. And it was also more to talk about the possibility of Hot Wheels and the possibility of Vaughn Gitten Jr.'s Mustang RTR, while also going over these screenshots in a little bit more of an in-depth way. And this also shows the snow environment, which the snow environment is going to be very cool. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm just kind of dying to get my hands on that Power Wagon. That Power Wagon's going to be a blast, man. It's going to genuinely be a blast. But here we see how much detail the dashes have up close, and, like, this is just mind-blowing. I could sit here and just look at this and find more details and more the more I look at it. So I think that that's, like, the amount of detail that's here is just absolutely off the charts. It's so freaking crazy. We all know about the house. The house is just beautiful, and I'm very curious as to see, like, if you took this picture, right, and cycled it through all the 4 different seasons, right? That would be so cool to see all those different changes. And it's definitely a cool house, right? It's kind of quaint. It's kind of like out in the middle of the woods, but it's super chill. I bet it doesn't really have fiber optic internet, though. So that would be an issue for a YouTuber. But we might be able to make an exception for that because it's a gorgeous house. And I think, honestly, it's one of those things where, like, I'm just excited, man. I'm just excited to get my hands on this game, and I think it's going to be an absolute blast. And if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to slam that like button. Tell me in the comment section below what you guys thought of it. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more. I'll see you guys next time. Talk to y'all later.